But first thing we'll talk about what a lot of people are talking about, and that is the new Distress Crayons. This is a new medium to the Distress world. And what these are, it is a water reactive pigment, which means it is not a wax crayon, it is not an oil pastel, it is a water reactive pigment. What I mean by that is that you can use them just like a crayon to create that really colorful, sketchy look. You have the ability to watercolor with them because they're water reactive, and you also have the ability to smudge them with your finger. And these work on a variety of surfaces. Right now they are only available in 18 colors. They're sold in 3 packs with the hopes of more. With the hopes. Like, please, I want more. So let's talk about kind of the consistency of these guys. So these are incredibly creamy. They go on almost like a lipstick. They are not waxy and sketchy. You can create that look if you go really fast, or you can create that opacity just by coloring these. And that's what's really different also from a watercolor aspect with these when I said they are water reactive. Usually if you're used to coloring with, say, a marker, when you put a marker on paper, our goal is to put less marker on the paper because we want to blend it out, correct? Well, if you do less crayon on the paper, you don't have as much blending pigment on there. But if you have something that's very solid, this is going to give us a much more smooth, consistent blend than a sketch. So a totally different way when we're coloring with these, that we have that ability to either blend our pigment or create that scribble look. So let's talk about some different surfaces. If I'm working with this medium, I can work on a variety of surfaces. I can work on a craft surface, I can work on a dark surface. Because this is going to be a pigment, I'm still going to be able to see these. So unlike working with ink like a marker, you're only able to work on lighter surfaces. And this allows me to blend and manipulate my color on manila, on watercolor paper, on any of those, okay? But they're not really watercolor crayons. Their whole purpose was not just to watercolor, okay? But I wanted them to be water reactive. Meaning if I wanted to still scribble on my craft sheet, I can use that as a palette that's never going to dry. I can pick up those colors and I can still apply those colors, right? But this surface on here, let me show you some of the features of it. If I want to combine colors, if I want to mix colors, I still have that blendability. I can take different colors, and I was kind of playing around with that here earlier, but I'll show you. I can take one of the colors, I can take another color, I can go right over the top of this. I'm not going to contaminate that at all. Now these crayons have a base that you can turn this to extend more of the material. So this base is filled with that material. And I wanted something that you can hold like a pen or marker, because that's just how I want to work with them. When I go in with a water brush, or even just a paintbrush with water, I can pull out one of the pigments, I can pull out the other pigment, or if I go in between, I'm going to create that blend. So you do have the ability on your surfaces, if you want to color one color over the next, you can blend those pigments on there. Or I have the opportunity to layer the pigment. So for example, if I have something on here, and make sure this is dry, just because I want to dry that water that's on there, I do have the ability to highlight or accent a color, and I'll show you something on the collage medium as well. One of my favorite sets, the vintage set, contains Picket Fence. Now Picket Fence is going to allow you to still go over the top of that. So if I'm ready to create that lighter, more soft pastel version, because this is a pigment, I can go right over that and soften that color down. And that's what we were doing on some of the collage. So let's talk a little bit about the collage aspect too, and I'll jump back to crayons in just a minute. We have some new Distress Collage Mediums, and what these are, I wanted to glue because I do a lot of collage mixed media work. I wanted something that wasn't as wet as Glue and Seal. We've discontinued Glue and Seal, much to Wendy's dismay, but I found that it kind of warped paper a little bit. The viscosity of multi-medium is still really great for 3D elements, but I found it was too thick when I was trying to spread it over a large surface for paper, and that was kind of the in-between of collage medium. Now collage medium is in 3 different finishes. There's matte finish, which is just a complete matte finish. There's vintage. Vintage is just going to be that tinted medium, so you just use it as your regular medium, but when you put it over the top, everything is already vintage. So for people that don't know how much ink to add or what to do with that, it's a really easy way to create that vintage effect. And then my favorite, which is crazing. Now crazing is very different. It is not a crackle, it is a craze. So if you look at the detail of this, and I'll even pass this board around, you will see these really fine little crackles, which is referred to as crazing, what ceramics or porcelain do. You get those little crackles, but it's under that surface. So unlike rock candy crackle that is textural and really chunky, this is completely smooth. There's no texture because it's cracked under the surface. It also makes this a waterproof surface, okay? So it's still all those sealing properties that we have with any sort of medium. It's going to be water-based, yet waterproof. Another thing that is different than rock candy is this does not distort your image. If you see on the sample board when you guys are walking around, definitely check that out. When you apply rock candy crackle over an image, it cracks, but it also reflects and distorts what's underneath. This you can apply directly over a photo, any ephemera, and it doesn't distort any of the imagery. You just see those little cracks in there. And so what we've done with this one is after that collage medium is dry, let's see if this one is dry yet. It's just about dry. I'll use my heat tool. All of the collage mediums, in addition to the 4-ounce size, they're also available in a sampler pack, where you get all 3 mediums in one pack, so you get a sampler. And we've also done this in our texture paste for the show, because we found a lot of people like, do I want matte texture paste or transparent? It's like, you know what, try the sampler, but for me, for someone that would, you know, take it to a workshop, I love the fact that I can take all 3 of these jars and I could refill them from the big ones, right? Because this is a lot in my bag. I'm not gonna use that much glue on a project. I might, but I may not. So I'll talk real quick about the mediums before I go with the crayons. Another thing that I loved about working with these mediums is creating some brushes for them. So these are the collage medium brushes. This one, and this one. 3 sizes. Now what's cool about these is that this is a very soft brush. So I'll pass this around so you can brush it on your hand to see. It's a soft brush but very springy. And I wanted that because I wanted the ability to brush a medium but also remove a medium. Okay? These are sold individually or in a set of 3. So I'll pass it around here. Yeah, if you feel it on the top of your hand, you'll see exactly what I mean. What's cool about this, if I'm going to work with it, is that I can take my collage medium. The brush is designed to fit right into the jar. I can pick up my medium, and when I spread it out, I have the ability to either apply a heavy layer, I'll show you here, let's say I have some glue on there, but usually with a paintbrush, if you had too much glue and you try to scrape it off, you end up with that big channel of glue. Because the brush is too flat, it just pushes it to the side. This brush actually allows you to scrape it right off. So I can pick up as much medium as I want and put it back in the jar. So I really wanted something that was angled to fit in my hand just like this. So it's a real easy way to kind of, like if you're doing wallpaper paste, you know, really go on there and spread out a lot of medium and really control how thick or thin that you get it. What I also like to tell people, I don't know if I have any ephemera, so this will become ephemera. Collage medium, when you put something down, and we have a paper, I either use a dry paper towel or you can use a cloth when you're putting this on. This has a drying time of now. So when you put something on there, it's going to set this, well, not this one because I have 3 layers on it. When you put this on, you're able to put another layer of ephemera directly over the top, and you can spread that right over the top of it. And you don't have to worry about each layer drying in between because nothing will affect the other layer. So you can put crazing on one layer, matte on one layer, vintage on another layer, and you don't have to worry about one overpowering the other. Another cool thing, these are all heat stable mediums. So unlike crackle paint that you have to wait before you can dry it, you can apply crazing medium, dry it with a heat tool, and it will craze right there. Okay, so let's show you the effect of that. One tip I always like to show people when you're using collage medium or any wet medium, when you're done with your brush, just wrap it in a baby wipe and then you won't have to clean it. You can keep it that way for hours. I mean, you have to clean it at the end of the day, let's be honest. But this way, if you're demoing or teaching or working on a project, don't always throw your brush into water. Okay, so this one we have applied some medium. And what's interesting about crazing medium is you don't see it right away. You think, well, this just looks like glue, nothing really happened to it. But it does. So I'm going to take some of the crayon just to create a highlight. I'm just going to go right around the outer edge, and you can do this with any color. And we can go in and smudge this. Just smudging with our finger. I can add as much medium as I want simply by smudging that. And you can see that I've got that great crazing effect. Because you can see those crackles highlighted, and I'll pass this around. You also have the ability to create highlights with your picket fence. So if I wanted to create kind of that oxide effect, I can go right over that brown to create those white highlights, and I don't have to smudge that. And again, you're never going to contaminate the crayon because it's just going to dispense that medium. Now let's say you didn't like something for whatever reason. Maybe you were applying this to a surface. I'll grab this one. This one's dry. Maybe you have some medium on a surface, because this one is done with the matte collage medium. That's going to give you a much longer smudge open time than just untreated paper. It's still smudgeable, but you can see the difference. This is going to give you a much longer play because it's not porous, it's been sealed. So if you use this on gesso or collage medium, you have a lot more open time. But one of the things I like about having a surface that has a medium on it first, let's take some colors. Nice, messy mud. If I have color on there, I can also go in with a stencil.
Which medium did you put under that?
This one's just the matte collage medium. So I didn't want any texture on there. I didn't want any crazing or any pattern. I just wanted something, and that's just using the brush. So it kind of gives you that kind of scratch effect. So you can also create a linen if you take the brush and do a crosshatch. But because you have that medium on there, if you take any pattern you want, we'll take something pretty small. Let's do this guy. This is going to already be dry, so it's not going to keep wiping off or smudging, but it is water reactive. So you can take a baby wipe, you can take whatever, and you can go through that to create an effect. Simple. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, that's really nice. It gives you a great effect right from the start. So you don't, I don't know, it's just this crazy different medium. But here's one of my favorite things, because you know me, when I create something new, I'm never going to forget what I love the most. And that would be ink, right? So even though we have cool mediums where you're like, oh, I've got water reactive pigments, I can do all of that. Well, it still needs to do something great with your distressing, because that's what we have. So I'm just gonna dry this to make sure there's no water on here. These are water reactive. And if I go in with a blending tool, pick up a little bit of foam, I can do this with Distress ink, Distress stain, Distress paint, Distress any ink. If I go over the top, any place that is very heavy is going to immediately resist the color. We see that. But if I go over this with water, even though we said it's water reactive, that layer is not water reactive anymore because it's dry. So unless I smear it out, I am able to resist even where the watercolor is. You'll see that base color come to the surface. It's pretty crazy. That when you're coloring on a surface, I was showing some people yesterday, because they're like, well, how reactive is it? Well, let's just take one of the crayons and let's just put it on the paper and let's spray it. You're gonna see that it doesn't react the way ink does. It doesn't wick. You're gonna think, oh, nothing happens. Sure, it'll happen as long as you touch it. So what I like is that it's a stable medium that I can work over the top. May's going, You know, when you use it, when she was part of the designer challenge, because when you put it on, you think, oh, I can't get it wet now. It's water reactive. It's distress. It's gonna go crazy. No. If you wet it, so if you accidentally wet it when you're doing another layer, it's not going to smear everywhere. It's just when you go and try to touch it, while it's wet, it will move. But once it's dry, you can apply ink over it, stain over it, anything, and even your watercolored area doesn't have to be so thick, it will also resist it. So that's what's really cool about Distress crayons. 1,000,001 uses. There's going to be more. All right, I have to move on.